Hello everybody and welcome back to the United Stand. It is countdown to kick off the build-up show. Manchester United at Old Trafford take on Tottenham Hotspur. It is a big one, it is Super Sunday, and all your match day build-up starts here on the United Stand with myself, Ricky and Mordzs. An absolutely huge game, so make sure you get all your comments in, all your super chats, anything you want to talk about, get them in the comments. But Manchester United versus Spurs. I mean, let's kick it off with this one. If Manchester United manage to get the 3 points today, it takes us into 8th place.
Does it actually?
Yep. That's how critical it is that we win, because you know, if we don't get them points, we're just falling further and further behind. Mordzs, confidence levels, where are we at?
Well, look, as a United fan, I'm always thinking at home, biggest game of the week. Well, not maybe. Actually, is it biggest game of the week? Maybe. It's Sunday, like you said, 4:30 kickoff. So everyone's gonna be watching us right now, and because of that, I always feel confident as a United fan. However, look, United versus Spurs, we've had some terrible games against them. I still remember was it 6-1 or something like that a few years back. So you never know with Spurs. They could either come out and just completely just take control of the game, or we could have situations where I remember when Ronaldo was here and he bagged like a hat trick against Spurs, and
I remember that.
That was a crazy game, and like we could have moments like that. So I feel like it's a bit balanced. I'm a bit optimistic, but at the same time, I'm not going to try and brush them over. They are still Spurs. The
one thing I will say is that Spurs against Manchester United in recent years has always been a good game, and you would think with what Spurs will bring to the table under Postecoglou that there will be goals in this game, we hope. I mean, Ricky, Manchester United have struggled to score goals so far this season. Do you think Old Trafford, that Spurs high line, this could be the game where we start to see some goals from Manchester United?
I'd like to think so, but I'm not confident in that happening. And when you say we've struggled to score goals this season, we've struggled to score goals for about 4 seasons, haven't we?
Yeah, true.
So it's not just this season. 57 goals last year, it's not enough. And the year before, it's exactly the same. And the year before that, it was 58.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not enough. We don't score enough goals. We don't create enough chances, even though we've supposedly got a player in our ranks who creates more chances than anyone else. I can't quite get my head around it, to be honest.
Well,
on the other hand, I regularly hear people saying that number 9 for Man United is a graveyard shift. I've heard it said about Ronaldo. I've heard it said about Martial. I've even heard it said about Weghorst. Now Hojlund. You know, it's a graveyard shift, but we've got the player who creates the most chances. Something doesn't quite add up.
Well,
Audio on Bruno.
We'll get on to that, because we are going to speak at the captain, Bruno Fernandes. Yeah. We have had a leaked lineup that we're going to not really. Well, we could discuss it and see if it's true. We're not saying it's true, but it's just something that we've been told, and we're gonna talk about that to see if we think that would be a good team for Manchester United. So stay tuned. Any official team news we get, we will bring it to you guys. Get in the comments down below who you think should start. Is there any team changes that you would make? Let us know that. But there is some team news for Tottenham Hotspur, and it is that the Tottenham captain, Son, he's not travelled to Manchester. He is not in the squad. I think he's recovering from an injury, and he will not be available to face Manchester United today. I mean, Mordzs, that is huge, isn't it? Because, okay, yeah, they still have other good players, but Son, I personally think is their best player, their captain. It is going to have an effect on them.
Easily their best player. I mean, look, they obviously brought in Solanke to kind of be this replacement for Harry Kane. He hasn't hit the ground running as well as people thought, considering how well he did for Bournemouth last season. So Son's kind of been that player who they've had to rely on. Even when Harry Kane was here, there's been times where Harry Kane's been injured and they still had to rely on Son in games where he's not been able to play. So he's been their go-to guy for a number of years, in my opinion. And to be fair, when he was playing as a striker, I don't think when he was playing on the wing, I don't think he was as good. I think his form dropped a little bit when he was playing as a winger last season. When he went to striker, he kind of played a little bit better. But now he's back on the wing because we've got a striker. It'll be interesting to see how Son can develop and see if he can go back to his old form where him and Harry Kane were pretty much going, game for game, goal for goal, assist for assist, literally every single week. So he is definitely a huge threat. And today, I mean, they're going to rely on, I don't know, Brennan Johnson or Kulusevski or maybe Solanke to try and get us some goals in. So yeah, I think it's definitely a huge loss for them, and hopefully we can kind of use that and be able to, figure out some kind of plan to kind of isolate whoever their other wing is going to be and try and make a difference from it.
Yeah, I mean, Ricky, for you, no Son, is that a big difference?
It's a big difference, yeah. I think, they've got a lot of good players. I like Kulusevski. He's in a bit of form at the minute, but I'm not mad keen on Brennan Johnson, if I'm honest.
I agree with that.
He is in a bit of form at the minute, but I also... I don't think, and he gets a hell of a lot of stick, I don't think Timo Werner's a bad player either. He doesn't get a lot of goals or assists, but his work rate's fantastic. He looks after the ball well. I don't think he lets a side down Timo Werner in a great many ways. And I also think he's, excuse me, I think he's more likely to play on the left. I take it he's in the squad. I don't know if you've got the squads there. I fancy it'll be either Kulishevsky or Johnson on the right, and I think Timo Werner might play on the left.
Yeah. I think it will definitely be Brennan Johnson, considering the form he's been in. I'm going to be honest, like, he'd probably score against us now. I don't think Brennan Johnson's that good, personally. I think against Diallo should be having that one, in my opinion. I know you don't mind Timo Werner, and he's okay, but I don't think he's nowhere near as threatening as Son, for example.
Nowhere near.
Dominic Solanke.
That's because of how good Son is, though.
Yeah, okay. Dominic Solanke, obviously new signing. Big signing for Tottenham, £65 million he cost him, which is obviously a big amount of money. Didn't quite get started how he probably would want to. I thought he looked maybe a little bit stiff to start off with. But I think he's got 3 goals in his last 2 games for Tottenham now. Scored home and away against Manchester United last season. That was for Bournemouth, obviously, in that terrible result, the 3-0 result of Bournemouth at Old Trafford. And then I think it was a 2-2 away from home for Manchester United, scored in that game as well. So Dominic Solanke has got a good track record at Manchester United. I would say he's definitely a player to watch for Tottenham today, especially because, speaking about Werner, he might not be, the absolute, best winger in the world, but he will get crosses in, and Dominic Solanke will be there. So our backline will be tested, Mordzs.
Yeah, no, look, I remember we put out the predicted lineups, like maybe yesterday or the day before that, I can't remember. And there was obviously like a huge debate as to who...
Combined 11s.
Yeah, combined 11s. Not predicted lineups, combined 11s, and everyone kind of had a different front three as to who they thought would, be the best striker or the best wingers. And obviously I put Solanke in my team because in my opinion, let's be honest, before this season started, if you said you would rather Solanke or Zirkzee, who would you rather? Everyone would have picked Solanke. Let's be honest. We all would have picked Solanke because he's done it in the Premier League, and not just done it in the Premier League, but he's actually performed well and against the same teams that he's playing against now. So when people say Solanke's going to struggle or he's struggling, to me it's like, well, he's already shown you that he can do it against these teams. It's not like he's come from a different league like Zirkzee's done or Hojlund did. He's done it against the exact same teams. He's just not been able to find a form at this club or at Spurs. So I think he's 100% going to find some kind of form eventually for Spurs. And when he starts kicking on, we're going to realise that we missed out on a very good striker, in my opinion. So I would still take Solanke at United over Zirkzee and Hojlund.
I was talking about Solanke, obviously, in the summer as a potential option. Ivan Toney was another one that was put out there. But I did put Zirkzee in my combined 11. And I think part of me was because I kind of forgot about Solanke, I'm going to be honest. And then I seen all the comments and I was like, oh yeah, Solanke plays for Spurs. But also now I was thinking about it. The reason I put Zirkzee in is because I actually have been really impressed with Zirkzee at the start of the season. The reason I probably forgot about Solanke is because I thought he looked, for his first few games for Spurs, I generally did think, I thought he looked poor. I thought he looked like a little bit like stuck in the mud, like he was running in quicksand. That's how I thought he looked. I was a big fan of him at Bournemouth. So that's why I probably forgot about him. Obviously picked up a little bit of form now for Bournemouth. But I've been really impressed with Zirkzee, and it's weird, Ricky, because there's a narrative around Zirkzee in the United fan base that's already starting to develop, and you can see opinions being split on him. Some people really rate him. Some people think he's a good signing. Some people have really liked the way he plays. And then there's the other side of it that's like, we need a lethal goal scorer. We need someone who's going to score 20 goals a season. He's not a striker that's clinical. Why have we not gone for a proper goal scorer? What are your opinions on Joshua Zirkzee and what he can bring to Manchester United and how important he might be today if he does start?
Well, what I've seen of him so far is obvious. It's obvious his technical ability, his link-up play, his control, his touch, his passing. Not scored enough goals yet. He's missed a couple of chances, but he hasn't had loads of chances. I literally spoke about this a few minutes ago.
He's been creating them, hasn't he?
He's been creating them. But again, we still don't create enough good clear-cut chances, in my opinion. And he might have missed one or two, but we need to create more. And maybe he will score a few when, if we start playing better. He's part of the reason that if we're playing better, some people think we're not playing any better, but if we are playing any better, he's a big reason why we are, without any doubt. You know what I mean? Normally, we've often got Marcus as a number 9. Marcus can't lace his boots when it comes to getting hold of the ball, bringing people into the game, helping the team get up the park. So, he's a big bonus in that way. Whether he's ever going to start scoring goals, I don't know, but You know, it's hard to find a striker who can do all those things, plus get on the end of plenty of chances. I would imagine, I mean, Hojlund got 10 last season in his first season. Zirkzee's got 1 so far. We've only played 5 games, and I think he spent the first 3. Is it 5 league games we played? And I think he spent the first 3 on the bench, didn't he? Or the first 2 or 3. Hopefully, he will start scoring some goals. And I mean, a lot of people said they were happy with Hojlund getting 10 in his first season. You know, he might still well get 10. Let's see what happens.
Ten Hag is speaking about going for younger players that need time, and Zirkzee will need time, but he does believe that he can be a prolific goal scorer. Still only 23, I think people do forget that. But Manchester United do need results now. But honestly, for me personally, if anyone's getting criticised at the start of this season, it wouldn't be Joshua Zirkzee. I genuinely think he's a big reason why we've created more chances. But then on the flip side of that, you do need a lethal goal scorer. And it's like, where do you kind of draw that line? How do you get the balance in the team? Do you drop him back? Do you play Hojlund with Zirkzee? That's a question that for you guys. But I want to run a poll, get some interaction going. Who would you start up front for Manchester United in today's game? You know, Rasmus Hojlund's fit now. He's come on in the last 2 games. Would you start Rasmus Hojlund or Joshua Zirkzee? Let's get that poll running. And I'll ask you guys in a second as well. Just got a couple of super chats in from Justin saying production levels are excellent. Well done to those behind the scenes. And of course, everyone presenting the show. Great job. Thank you very much. We appreciate that. Jack Milner says Solanke is a donkey. There's a reason Spurs were the only team who made a real effort to sign him. It's a tough one. He started off for Spurs not so great, and I do think he has looked a bit lethargic. But for Bournemouth, he was absolutely excellent, and it's really not easy scoring as many goals as he did in the Premier League. But time will tell on Dominic Solanke. Time will tell. A lot of chats already coming in. Who should start, Zirkzee or Hojlund? Who would you start in this game, Mordzs?
In this game, I've always said that I wanted to see Hojlund start just because I want to see someone get some goals, and I feel like he's just got that natural striker instinct compared to Zirkzee anyway. I'm not saying Zirkzee has no striker instinct, but I feel like Hojlund's just a bit stronger, and he kind of enters a game with a mindset of I'm going to try to get goals first and everything else will come after, whereas I feel like Zirkzee's main attributes kind of require him to try and link up play first and get on the ball first, and then it's like scoring goals kind of comes as a secondary. So for that reason, I'm going to say Hojlund. And as well, because Spurs play this ridiculous, let me not say ridiculous, but they play this high line which they get caught out in nearly every single game. If anyone's going to exploit it between the 2 strikers, it'll be Hojlund over Zirkzee. So I'd play, Hojlund.
Ricky?
I'd probably go with Zirkzee, with link-up plays being important, and then whoever plays on the wing, we should have 2 pretty quick wingers, and maybe they can pounce on the chances that can be created by getting the ball over the top or through the defenders. That when they've got such a high line, maybe Zirkzee can supply the chances rather than getting on the end of them.
I would also go with Zirkzee. The reason being is because still, I don't know if Hojlund's 100% ready to start yet. Obviously been out for a long time, but also I think against Spurs' high line, which they are going to play, and has the way he wants to play, and he'll do that wherever he goes. I think Zirkzee dropping in and then potentially, playing them passes through to Garnacho, Rashford, Ahmad, whoever it may be, I think that could work really well. His hold-up play, his link-up play, like you just said, Ricky. Do you know, obviously, these were the masters at it, but when Harry Kane used to drop in and he'd put them balls over the top to Heung-min Son and it'd work super well, that's what I can envision Zirkzee doing in this game. So I'm not comparing him to Harry Kane because Harry Kane's world class, but that sort of movement is what I would expect from Zirkzee, and I think he's done really well in his last few games. So I would continue with him personally. But the poll right now on who should start, it's very close. It's 53% Hojlund at the moment, 47% Zirkzee. Wow. Very, very, very close in there. So me and Ricky say Zirkzee. Mordzs says Hojlund. Let's see what your vote ends up being. I'll leave that running for a little bit longer. I mean, I'd love to see him, if whoever does start, when the other one gets subbed on, I'd love them both to be on the pitch at the same time for a portion of the game. Who would you take off? If you're not going to take off the striker, well, it has to be Bruno. Depends how the game's going, doesn't it? But yeah,
not really. Why would it depend on how the game's going? If you're going to bring on an extra striker and you're going to take one off, you can't take a defender off for him, really, can you?
No.
You know what I mean?
Oh, you'd have to see how the game's
And you always say that you don't like Bruno on the wing. You know what I mean? What are you going to do? Take a winger off and put Bruno on the wing? It's a simple, straightforward decision. If he's going to bring Zirkzee on and have two players up top, it's got to be for Bruno. And Bruno is virtually playing up top. We play like a 4-2-4, really, don't we? Bruno's right up there all the time.
Yeah.
Well, you've got Wolfie 35p saying play both Zirkzee and for Bruno. A lot of people saying they want to see Zirkzee in the 10. Brazil says, which player do you consider the most exciting? Well, we're going to do our players to watch in a minute, so we will definitely talk about that. But, I mean, we can talk about Bruno Fernandes being dropped to the bench all day long. We can talk about Zirkzee being in the 10, but let's be real, everyone. Bruno Fernandes is starting this game, so we're just wasting our breath.
Yeah.
Like, Bruno Fernandes is starting this game as captain. Ten Hag's backed him. I could bet my house on it that he's starting this game.
I think we were talking there about the substitution coming on, weren't we?
Yeah, we were.
Somebody said, like, when he brings him on, well, it's you. You said when he bring him on, you'd like to see him with Hojlund. And then we went on, so who should he come on for?
But the thing is, with that, it's like as good as it sounds like a good idea, but I'd really just have to see it to actually be able to say, okay, this is actually something that could work. I remember when everyone was saying Trent would be a good midfielder, and then he played midfield for England and it didn't work. Because when you actually see it happen in real life, it's not as simple as just a player you can pass the ball, can just play in another position. Like maybe seeing Zirkzee actually play as a, because playing in Bruno's position means you're going to have to play as a midfielder. You're not playing with your back against the goal for the whole game. You're going to have to link, you have to come in a lot deeper than you normally would, and you have to actually be able to play football around other natural midfielders. Playing against natural midfielders isn't as easy as just being a striker that drops in deep. Like I don't think someone like I've seen people comparing to Firmino and whatnot. Like Firmino was like a false nine, but I couldn't imagine Firmino playing as an actual midfielder. It's a completely different game in there. You're gonna get pressed a lot quicker. You've got nearly half as much time that you've got as a striker. So it would be like, it sounds good. Like it sounds like Zirkzee, he plays that similar role that Bruno does, but to put him as an actual midfielder now and tell him you're gonna have to be a number 10 and link up with Manu and whoever the other midfielder is going to be, Eriksen, Ugarte, whoever, it could be a completely different game. You could end up getting caught out very easily, and you know, it might not be as good as it sounds.
Maybe it's something that you'd want to see maybe 20 minutes towards the end of the game.
Yeah, I would never start him as a number 10. Like, you put him in a completely new environment that he's never been in before. Well,
I mean, the Leeds lineup that I saw, I mean, I'll say what I've seen, what I've been told the Leeds lineup is. I mean, I might not be right. It's literally just what someone has told me. And it was Anana, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez, Diallo, Ugarte, Manu, Bruno, Garnacho, Rashford and Zirkzee. That was what I got told like a little bit ago as like a Leeds lineup. So Sam's going to give us some team news in 3 minutes, and obviously we trust Sam completely, so we'll get some of his team news in, see how it matches up. But that is what I got told. Whether it will be that, we'll see. But that would obviously include Bruno Fernandes and Joshua Zirkzee in the starting 11. It would mean Ahmad drops out. It would mean Eriksen drops out. But we'll discuss that in 3 minutes' time. See if Sam's got anything that kind of lines up in a similar way to what I've just said there. But a midfield three of Ugarte, Manu, and Bruno is a midfield that, at the start of the season, you'd ask the majority of the fan base, and that's what they want. Ricky, I know you wouldn't, but the majority of the fan base, that is what they would have wanted. Ten Hag, obviously, it would be the first time he started that midfield three today. I mean, does that just show either one, Ten Hag doesn't know what his best team is? I mean, never mind his best team, his best midfield, because we are constantly chopping and changing. Or two, is it Ten Hag? It's a do or die game today. It really is. Sack who's in form, sack whatever's happening. I'm just going with what I do think is my best midfield, my best team.
Best team or midfield? Are we going just on the midfield right now?
Just on the midfield, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely don't think he knows. Well, I think he knows 2 of his best midfielders anyway. It's really just that last position, and I think Eriksen's just kind of put him in a bad position now because he's genuinely had good performances the past, three games or 4 games that he's played.
I think he's played 5, I think.
Yeah, maybe
in the cup competition.
Yeah. Even 5 games. I think Ten Hag can kind of think to himself, it's either a player that I've brought in, this is actually Ten Hag's play, he brought him in, I think he brought him in anyway, and for the first season that he brought him in, he obviously played very well for him. These past 5 games, he's been one of United's best midfielders, I'd say. He's scored a few goals, he's held the ball the best. Or you go with this new signing, which, let's be honest, you've not seen as much of him as you've seen of Eriksen. and you really don't. They've not really gelled as much as Eriksen has gelled with Manu and Bruno. So I feel like he's just put him in a really bad situation where, not bad, it's kind of a good situation at the same time, because you can go with one or the other, but you kind of just got to, yes, he has to make sure that he makes the right choice, because if he doesn't, everyone's just going to just get onto him for, you brought in Ugarte, he's done this, he's done that, whereas he goes with Eriksen doesn't work out, and it's like, oh, well, why would you play Eriksen when you've just got a new signing, So I don't know, I think it's kind of good and bad at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I can officially tell you guys from Sam C reports the United Stand that he has confirmed that Ugarte comes into the Manchester United starting 11 and Alejandro Garnacho also replaces Ahmad in the Manchester United starting 11. So I would presume the team that I just said is correct, because that both lines up. So we can presume that the starting 11 for Manchester United today will be Onana, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez, Diallo, Ugarte, Kobbie Mainoo, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho and Joshua Zirkzee is what we think it's going to be. But confirmed by Sam C reports is that Ugarte starts and Alejandro replaces Ahmad in the starting 11. Ricky, initial thoughts on that?
I don't know where he's getting off on, with Ahmad. Ahmad got disrespected last season, ridiculously last season. He should have played a hell of a lot more minutes. And so far this season, I've got no doubt in my mind that he's been our best winger. Not just... a lot of people just talk about assists and goals, don't they? And maybe he's not making loads of goals and loads of assists, but he's just more direct. He seems to be quicker, stronger on the ball. His defensive attributes are better. To me, he knocks Garnacho and Rashford into a cock's hat. He really does. I think he's miles better. And what the manager's looking at, I don't know. It's beyond me.
Well, it's interesting because I did the 8 p.m. show, if anyone was watching that. I did the 8 p.m. show on Thursday night on the United Stand, and I said, what worries me about Erik Ten Hag, and I hope it works out today, and we'll speak about why he might have made these decisions based on the way Tottenham's going to line up, because I do think there is a method to it today. But I said in my 8 p.m. show, I said, what worries me about Erik Ten Hag is he has a stubbornness about him, and as much as Ahmad has got game time so far this season because he's forced his way in, he's had to have game time, I know for a fact that Erik Ten Hag thinks his best front three is with Garnacho and Rashford on the wings. And he wants it to happen so much. Like, every time he makes that substitute, Ahmad's the first one to come off. That's what he thinks is his best. He's so stubborn with it. So
he's wrong.
But the second he has a chance to put them two there and take Ahmad out. He does it. Like, Ahmad's not scored in the last 2 games. Oh, I can do it now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's pathetic.
I can say it's rotation. Do you know what I mean? So he's going to force that wing partnership because he thinks that is right. Whereas actually, when he's brought it on the last 2 games, we've not looked like scoring. Like, we've not. Against Palace and against FC20, that's how he went in the end. He went direct. He went with Hojlund up front and he went with Rashford and Garnacho off the wings. And
I think I'm right in saying at Palace, wasn't Ahmad the first one to be taken off?
Rashford didn't start.
No,
Rashford came on as a sub.
No, Zirkzee was first off, and then it was Eriksen and Ahmad. So I was saying, for me personally, I think our best 3 forward players so far this season, to be fair, Garnacho scored some goals and got some good assists as well. Garnacho has contributed. But I'd say, like, the reason we are creating more chances is Eriksen, Ahmad and Zirkzee. That's what I say.
They're the better players.
They're the better players. Yet they're always the first ones to be subbed, and that's what confuses me about Eric.
He's driving me round a bend.
Because he obviously doesn't think that way, and I'm like, how are you not seeing that? But he's the manager, so you got to trust him.
This is the second, in my opinion, this is our second biggest game so far in the league. Obviously, Liverpool number 1, and then today it's Tottenham. It's like, well, the times where you genuinely need your best players to come out on the pitch are the times where you're dropping them. You dropped Ahmad twice now. Against Liverpool, it was a terrible game. In fact, what was it? He came on in the 80th minute and he was probably our best winger for the whole game. And I feel like it's the same thing's going to happen today. But hopefully it's not, actually, because I don't want that to happen. I want us to obviously win the game. But I can just see it already where we have a poor game.
Struggling like mad. Bring him on.
Yeah.
We start playing a little bit.
And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, why didn't we play Ahmad? And then he plays the next game. And it's like, well, why don't you just play him today? In the game where we genuinely needed him against a better opposition, it's the time when he gets dropped. So, yeah, I mean, it
seems like he's the easy option. He's not a blue-eyed boy, is he? Like Marcus has been in the team for so long, and Garnacho, the fans love him. He's been, he played a lot last season. To me, Ahmad's better than both of them.
A lot of people in the comments are saying rotation. In a big game like this, you don't rotate, do you? Let's be real.
You've got to trick your best. You've got to
The thing is, for me, it's like, what it is for me is I think Garnacho and Rashford are both best off the left. I think Garnacho is best off the left. When Garnacho started against Palace, he had 2 really good opportunities. I thought he played well. I genuinely thought he played well from the left-hand side. Yeah. When he went over to the right and Rashford came on, it was basically non-existent. It was basically non-existent. I think the reason he's done it is because I think he's hoping Zirkzee dropping it in, like we were talking at the start of the show. Spurs' high line, obviously you've got pace in behind with Garnacho and Rashford. That's what I think he's thinking.
That could work though. That worked against Aston Villa last season when they played a super high line. Rashford and Garnacho both started, and we ended up, I think we won that game. I think it was the second or the first game where we won, and it worked. They both got in behind. They both created a lot of chances. So I can kind of see where it's coming from with that logic, as I want players who are, they're both a bit quicker than, well,
I'm not sure.
They're both more than quicker than Rashford and Garnacho.
He did an interview this week.
Not much in it.
He did an interview this week, Ahmad, and he actually got asked that question, and he said he thinks in a race, he thinks it'd be Rashford first, then Garnacho or Anthony, and then him.
Is that what he said?
Oh wait, no, he said Hojlund. He said it between Rashford or Hojlund for number 1, and then he said it'd be Garnacho or Anthony, and then he thinks it'd be him. He's quite humble, Ahmad, though, isn't he? Like, I've seen a lot of people online saying he needs to add Garnacho's arrogance into his game, because he's not very arrogant, but obviously he's a very good footballer.
Yeah, it's humble.
He's not going to come out and say I'm easily the fastest.
I
would if I was.
It's not a bad thing to say. Like, it's just being fast, really. It's an attribute.
You know, also as well, it's like he's, in my opinion, way better technically on the ball than some of our other wingers. So everyone's got different strengths. So maybe he is going for that pacing behind Ricky. But like I said, Ten Hag's stubborn, and he will keep persisting. For example, Christian Eriksen, right? He had 4 starts on the bounce. So when he gets asked about Eriksen, he's probably going to say it's rotation. Again, this is a huge game for Ten Hag. You don't rotate I don't think you rotate players that you know are going to deliver for you on a game like today. So Eriksen's dropped out the team. Okay, yeah, he made a mistake against FC20, but the amount of players the player ran through to get to that position, again, should have been sorted out. And Eriksen was the reason we were 1-0 up, scored a great goal. Yeah. Probably been one of United's best players so far this season. A lot of people would agree. Yeah. Drops out the team. Do you think it's harsh, Mordzs? It's
not rotation. That's the first thing. It's not rotation. I've spoken about rotation loads of times on these build-up shows or forums. Rotation is where like you will save your best players for the biggest games. That's what rotation is. You pick your team depending on who you're playing against and depending on how you feel like their attributes would suit the opposition, if that makes sense. We played FC20. No offense, obviously FC20. They drew against us, so we can't even say anything bad about them. But if you're going to rotate the players that have played the best, you would have rotated Eriksen in that game and told him to play today, or you would have rotated Ahmad in that game and made him play today, because you knew that the Premier League is obviously should be your main priority. So you want your best players to play today. But if it was rotation, if he's claiming rotation, why would you play them during the week and then not play them on today against Spurs? That's not rotation. That's clearly just being dropped. So it already doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Ten Hag himself has not said it's rotation. We're just predicting him and what we think he's going to say surrounding that topic. But we have got some super chats coming in. Everyone getting their opinions in on the team that we have brought to you guys early. Patrick says Udogie will have an easy day versus Garnacho. The easiest. Well, the thing is, right, I remember Udogie versus Garnacho last game, and Udogie had him like very early on. Garnacho's got to show strength. That's one area he's had to develop. I would not have minded Garnacho starting this game. I do think he's been really good off the bench. But I think I would have liked him, if he was going to start off the left, and then Ten Hag's got to make that decision between Rashford and Garnacho and who is playing better at the moment. But I think Ten Hag doesn't want to make that decision, so Ahmad's the one that comes out in the end. So
I think it's a bit mad that, like, I genuinely feel like it's like a personality thing. Like, it's like because Ahmad, he knows Ahmad would never actually come out and say anything, or Ahmad would never make it known, or nobody would ever, like, I don't know. I feel like because Rashford and Garnacho have that little bit of...
I think what you're saying, Mordzs, is it's like he's the easy option.
Yeah, literally, and that's crazy to me, to think that an easy option can be made on something that's not on ability.
I actually think I think Ten Hag values numbers over performance. That's what I think it is.
Even the numbers argument's not fair because he didn't get to play against Barnsley. Barnsley was an easy game for everyone. Everyone got the goals and assists against that game.
Garnacho has delivered goals and assists in the past for him, and so has Rashford. And obviously we know, Rashford, he's a big player, he's a big game player. I think that's where it comes with Ahmad being the easy option. Whereas if you actually look at a performance over 90 minutes with a football, Ahmad's the best performer. But if you look at, goals and assists, and I know Ahmad's not had as much time, that's what I think Ten Hag values over actually a 90-minute performance, which is why he's making these decisions. But this is where I call it stubbornness as well, and it might well work today, and I hope it does. I really hope it does. I want anyone who starts to do well, is you look at the Liverpool game, and that partnership didn't work. And Ahmad came on and I thought made him look a bit silly because of how good he was in that short cameo. Yeah. And if that happens again, it's like, why do you keep dropping Ahmad out at the first opportunity?
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but haven't they not all got 1 goal each in the league?
I was going to say, in the league, it's not that different. Rashford's only scored 1 goal. I think Ahmad's
got 1 away to
Brighton.
Rashford's got 1 away to Southampton. Garnacho, who's he scored against? He scored 1 goal, I think.
He got an assist against Fulham.
He scored against Brighton, but he got ruled off, didn't it?
Has he even scored in the league?
He might not have. I'm not sure.
So,
but I mean,
if you're picking your team on who plays well against Barnsley in the League Cup, then you're an idiot as far as I'm concerned.
Trey Warren says Ahmad doesn't score goals or create them. Goals win games. Sorry, I don't agree with that. He literally scored. He's literally scored some really important games for Man United.
He scored a fantastic goal at Old Trafford last year against Newcastle, didn't he?
Yeah.
Scored a fantastic goal against Liverpool in the Cup.
Scored against Brighton away.
Scored this season against Brighton away.
I mean, have you also? I know it's in the Championship, but for Sunderland, he was unreal.
For the lack of game time, excuse me, that he got last season, if you could work it out per minute, I bet he scored just as often as Garnacho did. Garnacho must have played 7 or 8 times as many minutes.
Shenanigan says Ahmad has only been the first sub twice in 8 games. He's usually one of the first, is what we were trying to say. Anas Blowley says, do you think Ten Hag will get sacked today, guys? No. Ronnie Dodge says, I think midfield will be Ugarte, Bruno and Cobbett. Well, you got that right. Terence Tock says, Cole Palmer reminds me of Paul Scholes. Sanil Dewan says, lineups confirmed, same as Mark predicted. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about the lineups quite early today and we did get it right. And Enjoy Writing says, I'd take a point if I was offered it now, Beth. That's an interesting question. And get in the chat as well. Would you take a point if you were offered it now against Spurs?
I'm going 3 points every day.
Seems so negative, doesn't it? But
we have the same amount of points as Spurs.
We've got the same points.
We've got the same
if we lose, obviously we'll be 3 points behind them, aren't we?
No, I'm taking 3 points against Spurs. Newcastle beat them. Was it Newcastle that beat them? I think.
I'm not sure.
Arsenal obviously beat them. Like, to be fair, you know what it is with Spurs? They've had a similar season to United. One, obviously, both have the exact same record, but I think Spurs and United are both like high up in the table when it comes to big chances missed. They're both 2 teams that can create chances, but they're just missing a lot. So it could come down to just whoever just finishes the chances today. Like both teams are going to get opportunities. United, we always concede opportunities to any team. Spurs obviously concede a lot of chances as well. And both teams are trying to keep possession. Spurs, I think, are up there. I think top 2 or top 3 in possession kept as well. So it's 2 teams trying to play the same game against each other, and it's just whoever comes out at the top.
I mean, for me, it's like, it's hard because in the past, I mean, like what Roy Keane has said about Spurs, like you never worried them. Like it was 3 points. Like
it was a long time ago.
I know it was a long time ago, but the fact that we are now on the same level, if not below Spurs, is like
we've been on the same level for a minute.
I know, and it's depressing. Yeah. And I'm sorry, a draw against Crystal Palace wasn't good enough. I am not taking a draw. We're going out there to win today, and we better had win at Old Trafford. Yeah. I don't accept a draw. I don't accept a draw. Out of the transfer business we've done, you're in year 3. You know, with the players we've got, I do not accept a draw today, and I'm putting it out there. I'm raising my standards, and the fact of the matter is, at home, to this Spurs side, Manchester United should be winning this game. We've already had a poor start to the season. You've got to capitalise. This is a game you've got to capitalise in and got to bring the points back. Do I think we will win? We'll get onto that towards the end of the show because we've got our predictions, and you probably see them coming up on the screen. But there's no way you should be like, oh, I'd take a point today against Spurs. No, we go out there and win. It's Old Trafford.
And I know Spurs will not take a point against United either.
Exactly.
They will never take... Spurs didn't take a point against Chelsea when it went down to 10 men. They played the same game last season and they ended up losing like 4-1, but they played the exact same game and they thought, you know what, I don't care who we're playing against. Ange is just like, you know what, I'm stubborn with what I'm doing and I'm going to continue to play it. If Ten Hag gives in and says I'm taking a draw, that says a lot about him, considering Ange is his first season in the Premier League, well, second season in the Premier League, so... Yeah,
I think what we're really saying though is, I mean, obviously I don't know who it was, but somebody sent a super chat in. As a fan, before this game kicks off, he's probably thinking that he's that worried that we're going to end up with no points and that Spurs are going to go 3 points in front of us. That if we do draw, at least we are still level with them on points. I understand where he's coming from, and you two are both talking about as if he's saying that the team or the manager might take a draw. They're going to play to win. Of course, they're going to do their absolute utmost to win. But I understand where the guy's coming from.
As a fan, would you take?
I understand where the guy's coming from. I probably would, yeah. I'd rather be level with Spurs after the game than 3 points behind them.
They're 11th in the Premier League.
Yeah, I get it. But maybe we've got to start by beating the likes of Palace rather than beating Spurs. Obviously, it'd be great if we can beat them, but I just understand where the guy's coming from.
Yeah.
You know, a draw might not be the end of the world. We're still level with Spurs. If we're still level with Spurs, I mean, I know there's a hell of a long way to go, but I'd rather be level with them than 3 points behind them, even at this stage. You know what I mean? Yeah.
We've got the official team in for Manchester United, and it was correct. The same one that we had spoke about a while ago. So if you are just tuning in, we had the team, but the official team is coming out now, and it is Andre Onana, Mazraoui, De Ligt, Martinez, Diallo, Ugarte, Kobe Mainoo, Bruno Fernandes, Marcus Rashford, Alejandro Garnacho and Joshua Zirkzee. The bench, a lot of people will be excited to hear, is Bayende, Evans, Lindelof, Casemiro, Eriksen, Mount, Ahmad, Anthony and Rasmus Hojlund. So no Harry Maguire on the bench.
So Lindelof's back.
Yeah. I assume Maguire might have picked up a little bit of an injury if he's not on the bench, surely.
From where though?
I mean, I'd assume he'd be on the bench over Victor Lindelof, considering...
I'm not sure about that.
Do you reckon he's just rotated him out?
Lindelof, I can't think of anybody else in the squad who can play fullback if one of the fullbacks gets injured.
Oh, that's true, actually. Right. That's a really good point. So Lindelof will be there for fullback cover. Maybe he's give Evans the nod over Maguire. I think Maguire's got an injury. But anyway, it's a strong bench. Again, we've spoken about in the past, Mordzs, injuries and some of the benches we put out last season. I mean, they were laughable, let's be real. Yeah. No disrespect, but they were. This season, the last couple of games now, we've had quite strong benches there. I mean, you've got Casemiro, Eriksen, Mount, Ahmad, Anthony, Hojlund. Like, you have players to bring on there. He's had players to bring on the last couple of games, and let's be real, he's got it horribly wrong. Yeah. I think the last two fan forums now, like the title's been wrong subs again. Ten Hag has to find a way to impact this game using his bench, doesn't he? Yeah,
and I'm literally said the same thing about the Palace game. It's not even just about the fact that he has a good bench, because he's had a good bench all season. It's literally about when he brings on these players and where he not even just where he brings them on in terms of position, but then who is he taking off for those players as well. So if you are going to bring on an Amad Diallo, or who else is an attacker? I mean, it's really only Anthony. If he's going to bring on Amad Diallo, what's he going to do? Is he going to take off a Rashford as well? Is he going to bring in a Hojlund? Is he going to take off a Zirkzee? Is he going to put Rashford up front? Is he going to put Garnacho on the left or the right? What's your game plan when you want to make these changes? The Crystal Palace game was a perfect example where we had the right subs. Like, there was the right players to bring on, but he just brought them on in the wrong place and for the wrong players, and it's completely changed the game. So it's all good having great players on the bench. If you don't know what you're going to do with those players, they're just pretty much useless. Maguire
has suffered a knock, which is why he's out of the subs bench. And I agree with you, Mordzs, on that point. You've got to be able to utilise your squad properly, and Ten Hag has to show that. I mean, do you want to hear the Spurs starting 11?
Let's have it, yeah.
So the Spurs starting 11 is Vicario in net, Pedro Porro, Romero, Van der Ven, Udogie, Bentancur, Kulusevski, Maddison, Johnson, Werner, Solanke. Yeah. It's very attacking, that, isn't it?
I thought it was going to be it, yeah.
There's no Bissouma in there, is there? Is he injured or is he on the bench?
He's on the bench, yeah.
Is he? Wow.
So the midfield three being Kulusevski, Bentancur and Maddison. That's not your ideal midfield, Ricky, is it?
Kulusevski, Bentancur and Maddison, and then
And then Johnson, Werner and Solanke.
Wow.
He has been playing.
Well, it could be a wide open game, this.
Because Kulusevski is naturally obviously more of a winger anyway, so I feel like he's going to be like I don't know what this new position you can even call it, like a half winger. I don't even know what they call it these days, but
wide midfield, like they used to call it.
Pretty much.
Gigsworth.
Yeah, like a 4-4-2. So, yeah, I think that could be an interesting, I guess, battle in the midfield.
He does play wide right, but Johnson plays
Basuma
wide
and Sarr are
right.
both on the bench.
Right.
You thought you would think he would include one of them players.
Basuma and Sarr, I had them both in me
Combined.
I had them both in me combined 11, and they're not even in their starting 11. Yeah. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for us?
Yeah, true. I had Sarr, man. Did I have Sarr?
I like Basuma, mate. I think he's a great player.
The one thing I would say is, right, they could be deadly on the break with the pace in that team and you know, the attacking threat. Another thing I would say is United got to score goals today. I mean, their midfield, fair enough, like it's got talent in it. Kulusevski, talented player. Madison, talented player. I think Bentancur is top. He was in my combined 11. I really rate Bentancur. Right. But there's not really an out-and-out 6 there. There's not really much, sort of... There's not really there's not a defensive midfielder. It's very, very attacking. It's very, very attacking is what I would say. It's forward thinking. And Manchester United with the players that they have to hurt Spurs there, we should be poising a threat at least. Should be scoring goals.
Could be a 4-4 draw.
I mean, I definitely think there'll be goals in this game for sure. A lot of people saying Spurs wide open. Can we exploit it? I mean, the left-hand side for Spurs, if you're thinking about... I mean, Marcus Rashford and Alejandro Garnacho today, they've got to be getting in there. Pedro Porro likes to get forward. Udogie likes to get forward. You've got a midfield of...
Zay Van der Ven's playing, right?
Madison and Kulusevski to kind of deal with. It's not as if you've got Sarr and Basuma in there that are going to be, very aggressive, breaking up the play and physical. They've got to go at their fullbacks today and make an impact. Yeah,
and I think with Spurs as well, I said it before, I think they're second in the league for average possession, so they do like to keep the ball. Even though the midfield might look a bit, I guess, weaker than United, they do like to keep the ball. So it's going to, like I said before, it's going to be literally back and forth in my opinion. And to be fair, I know you spoke about, obviously, Porro liking to go forward, Udogie liking to go forward. Van der Ven is a very, very fast player. Very, very fast player. So even though they have that high line, it's going to be a battle between... He usually plays on the left anyway, so I guess that's Garnacho. Him and Garnacho, if he's trying to get him behind, it's going to be a serious battle between those two players.
Van der Ven, I had him in my combined 11. I think he's top. Yeah. I really think he's top. Agree. And that's where he's going to be an issue for us, kind of trying to get him behind. Yeah. But I still think we can do it.
Yeah, no, 100%.
100%. Still think we can do it. But he's a top player. Romero's a good centre back as well. They've got a good centre back pair in there. But so have we with De Ligt and Martinez. And Linda Searles has actually put an interesting chat in there, saying De Ligt for corners will be deadly with Vicario not coming off his line. Spurs have been really vulnerable off set pieces so far this season. De Ligt's look really threatening. That could be an area for Manchester United to exploit. Do you reckon?
I wish we had Eriksen taking our corners.
Yeah. The fact that we don't have a good corner taker is insane.
Well, that's another question. Jenny Gallagher with a super chat in saying, Beth, would you have dropped Bruno Fernandes today? And that's a very interesting question because I think Eriksen should be starting, but I also think Mainoo should be starting, and I think Ugarte should be starting. So if Eriksen was going to start this game, for me, would be in place of Bruno. And if the starting 11, I'll tell you this, okay. If the starting 11 would have come out, and it would have been the exact same team, but with Eriksen in place of Bruno, I wouldn't have had an issue. Okay. I would have said that's a decent team. You've got good set pieces off Eriksen. I think he's been really good so far this season. I think he looks after the ball really well. I think in combination with Mainoo and Ugarte, that could be a really strong midfield. I wouldn't have had an issue with it. But at the same time, if you're asking me if I was in charge, would I have dropped Bruno?
No.
Probably not. Because he's the captain, and because I'm not ready to give up on him yet. No. However, he has been very poor so far this season, and if Ten Hag would have dropped him out for Eriksen, I would have completely understood it, and I would have thought, that's a really good midfield. So I'm sitting on the fence, to be fair. I'm saying I don't know. It's as a manager, you've got to have the confidence and you've got to have the kind of arrogance to do these things. And Erik Ten Hag's chosen to stick by his captain, and I think in the long run that could be a good decision.
I mean, end of the day, it's easy for us to like sit here and say we dropped Bruno. Like, it's very, very, very. It's like we're playing FIFA and we're just taking out the team, and like no one's gonna say anything or do anything. As a manager, you're dealing with a lot more than just saying you sit on the bench. You're dealing with, like you said, the captain. You're dealing with probably one of the most influential players in the team. Most of the players speak about him as being one of the leaders in the team. So taking him out the team isn't as simple as, oh, I don't think you're playing as well as Eriksen, so I'm going to play Eriksen instead of you. It's a much bigger decision than doing that. So, yeah, as a manager, I can kind of understand why you wouldn't want to drop Bruno in a big game like this.
Ricky?
I saw, I often see things that, and I wonder if they're actually true, but I saw a supposed quote from the manager during the week. I don't know if either of you saw it, where he's supposed to have said that Bruno will start scoring goals, he will start providing the final ball. I don't know if you saw that quote. And it's just a matter of time. And I thought to myself, doesn't seem right that, you know, it's just a matter of time. What do you just keep somebody in the team who you think's going to start scoring goals, who you think's going to start providing assists? Not that I think like that anyway. I don't think the manager should even be thinking like that. If a player in my team, if I had a player in my team who was playing well, I won't be bothered if he was getting goals and assists. You know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a bit, you know, he's, like I say, you see these quotes, you don't know if they're made up, but if it is true, I think it's a pretty poor way of looking at the game, I think.
Interesting stuff. I mean, I said on Twitter that it was, Eriksen for me, like, I think it is quite harsh to drop him today. I'm getting like loads of people like having a go at me saying it's rotation, it would have been his 5th start, you know, he's not mobile enough to start in a game like this. Everyone said he weren't mobile enough to start against Crystal Palace and he was one of our best players. Like, if you're basing it on form, he makes the best 11 at the moment on form. Do I think overall, you know, he's in our best 11? No, I don't. But on form he is. But I think what this team is today, I think this is what Ten Hag thinks is his best 11.
Yeah.
Do you agree?
In terms of like fit and not like.
I just think overall, I think this is what he thinks is his best 11.
Unless maybe Luke Shaw.
Yeah, apart from that. I think he's just gone with it today, and Ugarte starts, Manu starts, Bruno starts. I mean, this is an interesting question. I mean, Patrick has said Spurs are pressing like mad dogs / keeping the ball. Spurs will definitely offer difficulties to Manchester United today, but I think we should be able to overcome it. But is it Bruno's like last chance today? A lot of people are saying if he puts in another stinker, then does he go to the bench, or does Ten Hag just keep playing and keep playing and keep playing it?
No, he's
Last season he had about 20 stinkers and he never got a drop. So
yeah, he's playing every big game this season. Yeah, we kind of know now, as United fans, we know what Ten Hag's like. I'm not surprised anymore by anything Ten Hag does. If he was to play Bruno the next 20 games in a row, 30 games in a row, and Bruno was to play terribly, it would not surprise me one bit, because we've seen him do it with other players in the past. So yeah, it's definitely not Bruno's last chance. Unless Ten Hag gets sacked and another player comes in, another manager comes in, then we might see Bruno get dropped. That's the only way we'll see Bruno get dropped this season. So yeah, I'm not giving into the whole Bruno's United's career's on the line. It's not.
It's nothing like it.
Not at all. Yeah.
I mean, I think there's only so far you can play really poorly for and stay in the starting 11. But I have faith in Bruno today. I think he's going to have a good game. I think he's going to have a good game.
So. You say that every week.
Got to keep the faith. Got to keep the support. I mean, the thing is, what I would say is, I do think a lot of Manchester United's performance is based off whether Bruno Fernandes has a good game or not. Yeah. Like when Bruno Fernandes is playing poorly, a lot of the times Man United don't get the results. If Bruno Fernandes is playing well, the results tend to go in Manchester United's favour. Like, he is a huge part of that team, and I'm just hoping, I'm just really hoping that today's the day where we get to see, you know, Bruno Fernandes on form at his best. You know, he's had the most shots, I think, so far this season without scoring a goal within the Premier League. He's had the most shots without scoring, yeah. He needs to deliver now. His captain needs to deliver, and I think today's a big game where he has to turn up. And
I hope they take him off free kicks today. You see that free kick the other night?
Yeah, it's poor.
It's embarrassing shooting from that distance. Absolutely embarrassing. And what credentials has he got? He's got 2 free kicks. He's been with us 5 years. What? I don't understand.
I don't even know.
It's like Sunday League football. Somebody in Sunday League could say in a decent team, they'd say, what are we doing with him still taking the free kicks every week? He scored 2 in 5 years. And then we get a free kick that's about 30 yards out in the last minute and he shoots.
That was horrible.
There's no credentials. to say he is our man to take free kicks.
Yeah.
There's no
I
credentials.
think because he's that set. I thought he was going to cross it in with that shot. But I think everyone thought that was the like.
He needed to go wider a bit, didn't it? Though he was too central to put it straight forward. You know what I mean? It just needed to be.
Was never
we needed
be that.
one pass wider and then crossing in. That's what we had everybody up in the box. It was awful.
Poor decision.
And got another super chat coming in from Andy Merck saying United were great against Palace. Bruno was the main issue in that game. He needs dropping. Eriksen suits our current system better. I do keep hearing people say Eriksen's not mobile enough against Spurs. Everyone said it, including myself. I said it on the build-up.
Yeah, I was getting killed for that.
He wasn't mobile enough against Palace, and yet he was one of our best performers. Like, I think this narrative is used too often as an excuse just to, you know.
It doesn't even, because I'll be honest. Before this season, if you asked me if I thought Eriksen should start, I'd say no. Because that was the narrative of last season and what we saw. He didn't really get to play that much last season, to be fair, but it was just that was just what people were saying anyway last season. But from what I saw this season anyway, especially even before that Palace game, look, if a player keeps the ball, it almost doesn't matter how physical, how strong they are. They're going to be able to keep the ball and keep it ticking to a point where you can't touch them. You can't get near them. The most legendary players of most legendary midfielders that we've ever seen, they weren't the strongest players, they weren't the fastest players. Look at Scholes, he wasn't the fastest guy in the world, he wasn't the strongest guy in the world, but you couldn't get near him because...
He's just got a different brain.
Yeah, his brain is these...
Like Modric.
Modric or Busquets, or these guys are all legendary players. You couldn't get near these players to even nudge them off the ball because they were so quick and they were 4 or 5 steps ahead. And I'm not saying obviously Eriksen is that level, but he's obviously quicker than a lot of the other players that are on the pitch today anyway. So being physical and being this strong midfielder that, you know, he's got all these legs, it almost doesn't matter if your IQ of the game is better. And that's what Eriksen has.
Spot on.
Anil Sexar says Sir Alex used to use Chicharito as a super sub because his all-round game was not good enough, but he was still better than Rashford and Bruno's.
He's a poacher.
Chicharito. Love that guy.
Best poacher
What did you
ever.
think about him, Ricky?
Not a big fan.
I knew you would be. I knew you would.
He started Champions League final for us. I think it's 2011 or something, or 10. I can't
He
remember.
shouldn't have started that.
Do you remember when it was him and Will?
A disgraceful decision with Berbatov not even in the squad and Chicharito playing.
I mean,
oh
I can't argue Alex Ferguson. I can't argue.
Do you remember when it was him and Welbeck up top for a while?
Yeah. Welbeck was alright, to be fair.
Ricky loved Welbeck.
Before that Champions League final at Wembley against Barcelona, I was in a hospitality suite at the Wembley Hilton, and I was asked what's our chances, because that Barcelona team was possibly the best team that's ever walked the earth.
Yeah, easily.
You know what I mean? They were fantastic. And I said, look, we've got there was 2 decisions to be made that day. We were struggling at right back. I can't remember who was injured, or maybe I think Gary Neville was just coming at the end. Whatever. We were struggling at right back, but Chris Smalling had come through and had played a few games at right back that season, only 4 or 5 games. And also up top, who's going to be up top? So I said, the manager has got to get this right. And I'd sit here and argue with Fergie if he was sat here. And I said there and then, it's got to be Smalling and Berbatov. And that'll give us a glimmer of hope. But I said, what he'll pick, I forget which one it was now, he'll pick one of the twins who's about half the size of Smalling and a quarter as fast. Right? It should be Smalling, not one of the twins, and it should be Berbatov who can hold the ball up. We need to think about getting the ball forward to someone who can hold it, try and win a free kick, relieve the pressure. Don't be thinking about trying to get a ball over the top. I read a stat after that game that what's he called? Hernandez. Chicharito. Yeah. I read a stat after that game that he got caught offside more times in that game than Berbatov did all season.
Is it?
That's what I read after that game.
Wow.
You needed a player coming towards the ball, getting hold of it, and winning a free kick or two. So as great as the manager was, and I said this, as I say, I said it in a suite before the match, it's got to be Smalling and Berbatov, and I knew he was going to go with one of the twins and Chicharito. I knew it. I knew it.
I wish we had build-up shows back then.
And I said it there and then.
Robble has asked you a question, Ricky, in the chat. He says, please ask Ricky to rank these midfielders based on who his favourites are. McTominay, Fellaini, Eriksen and Matic.
Wow.
That is the most.
McTominay, Fellaini, Eriksen and Matic. That's a tough one. Matic is probably the best. Out of those 4?
Yeah, just rate them from 1st to 4th. McTominay, Fellaini, Eriksen and Matic. So you go Matic
first.
first.
Fellaini, Eriksen, McTominay.
Matic, Fellaini, Eriksen, McTominay. Okay. Interesting. You put Fellaini above Eriksen.
So, yeah, only just the physicality, strength, height. You could hit the ball to him. He could hold it up. He was a vastly underrated player, Fellaini. Vastly underrated player. There was one game. Was it a Bournemouth away one game where he had a 100% pass completion and played the full match. He was vastly underrated. Fellaini, I liked him.
Anas Baloney has said, do you think Man United have a chance to win the Premier League? Not this year. Not this year. Project 150? When it's 2028 they want to win. No. Anyway. Ricky, the chat's loving it. Anyway, I want to bring in some stats, okay? So, this is something I want to bring in. How many goals do Manchester United have this season? Anybody know?
How many have we got now?
How many have we got in the Premier League this season?
I would say 5.
6.
We've got 5 goals in the Premier League this season. How many goals do you reckon Erling Haaland has alone?
10, innit?
Yeah.
10.
Erling Haaland has double the amount of goals that Manchester United as a team have.
No, but to be fair, he had more than every other team in the Premier League, though.
Not twice as many.
Look at Chelsea as
Now
well.
he doesn't. Now he doesn't. But before this game week, he had more than every.
Cole
other team.
Palmer has 6.
Yeah.
We have 5 as a club. Right. Chelsea, I mean, are worrying me, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah.
They look nailed on for 4th for me.
What?
Or top 4, I should say. They might be higher than 4th.
What it is for me, guys, and get in the comments as well, is that I'm seeing Chelsea, I'm seeing Arsenal, I'm seeing City, I'm seeing these teams play, and it's like, even Villa, right, Newcastle, they all can score goals. Manchester United, goals are hard to come by.
We don't create enough chances. Our number 10's no good.
But let me just finish, for example. For example, like Chelsea, do they concede some goals? Yes, they do. But they can score goals. They've got guaranteed goals. Rashford, I'm not just individualising players here, but Rashford, he's our main guy. He's never scored a Premier League hat-trick. Feels like Cole Palmer does it on the monthly basis. Like he's just scored four in one half of football.
He's one of 6 players I saw on Match of the Day that have scored 4 goals or more twice in the league. Palmer, yeah. 4 goals.
The first ever player to score a
twice.
hat-trick.
And Aguero did it 3 times, and then about 4 or 5 players have done it twice, including Berbatov, by the way.
Yeah, he scored 5 in one game.
He's the first ever player to score 4 goals in one half of football.
Yeah.
I think he's a future United player. I know rival fans.
No way with the contract he's on. No way.
That 9-year contract
100 million quid.
Yeah,
United aren't paying that.
£100 million for Cole Palmer was a steal.
But
That's a bargain.
United aren't going to pay that under Sir Jim. We're not going to pay hundreds of millions for
I
that.
think in 4 years,
Promise you we're not.
4 or 5 years time, if Cole Palmer's going for £100 million, United will buy him. 100%.
You want him, but Chelsea have nailed him down to a 10-year contract, and he's fantastic. They're not going to let him go for cheap. 100% not. And under Sir Jim, the Glazer regime probably would have gone for it.
Yeah.
Under Sir Jim, he's already said we're not buying players for that amount of money. We're buying, multiple players that have prospect that we can turn into 100 million.
But that's
players.
now though. I understand why we're doing that now because we've tried to do the £100 million player about 3, 4, 5 times now. I think eventually we're going to get to a point where we are challenging. The same how Arsenal have been challenging the last 3, 4 years, and they had to go and get a Declan Rice to go and change it. And in my opinion, they should have spent another £100 million, got a striker this year. You have to bring in that big player at the right time. When the rest of your team is developed, at the right time, bring in that big player that's going to take it to the next level. And I think eventually United, hopefully, like I said, in the next 4 or 5 years maybe, when we're at a point where the rest of the team develops to a good enough point, we're going to have to bring in that big player, and that player's going to be Cole Palmer.
I hope you're right, but the guy's a contract till 2033.
Yeah, that's
I hope
crazy.
you're right. Zirkzee says, I think Rashford had a hat-trick against Leipzig. He did, but I'm talking about in the Premier League.
Yeah, he's never scored a hat-trick in the Premier League.
And he's our 300+ grand a week forward player. He's our
Our star boy.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you have other...
When we were talking the other day, Beth, about which players are good enough if we want to try and start competing for the Premier League and the European Cup. We spoke about Garnacho, we spoke about Rashford, and I said to you that they've got no chance of competing for the Premier League or the Champions League, those players. If you look at 1 or 2 other teams, for example, like I don't think either of them can lace the boots of Karim Mitoma, who plays on the left wing for Brighton. He's not playing for City, he's not playing for Liverpool or Arsenal, he's playing for Brighton. He's miles better than our left wingers. Absolutely, he's got that drop of the shoulder. He goes both ways. He plays with his head up. He sees the passes. That's a player we should be. And I've looked him up. He's 27, by the way. He's not a kid anymore. I don't know what you'd have to give for him, but you know, Brighton are a selling club. But we've got players in our team who we think, who most of the fans think are going to start challenging for the Premier League, and they're not really players who would get into teams who don't get in the top 4, let alone challenging for the league title.
Like, for me, for example, like you look at, you know, the top team's best forward player and the most well-paid forward player. You look at Man City, Hojlund. Obviously, we've got no one on his level. You know, even you could name their whole front three. Let's be real. And then you go to Arsenal, Saka, you would say.
Saka's fantastic.
And, you know, he's better than all of our forward players. Yeah. You look at Liverpool, Salah, better. Like, let's be honest. Spurs, Son's better. Yeah. So is Son better than... you would say our best player, our most hired player, our you know, meant to be our threat is Rashford. He's better. And then you start going down, you know, to the other teams and, then maybe you'd put ours into the equation. But... And I'm not coming for Rashford, by the way, because I don't think it's necessarily his fault. I'm just saying that we've put a lot of eggs into that basket, but we need to provide other quality players. Like, Rashford shouldn't be the best forward at Manchester United. No. He shouldn't be the best forward. I think he can play for Man United. I do. And I think, honestly, when he's performed... He can
only play for Man United if we're not going to challenge for Premier Leagues.
I think he can challenge.
I think he can. And I think when he's performing, when he's performing at his top level, I think he's... definitely in the starting 11 when he's performing at his top level. But the thing is, you can't have your best player be that inconsistent. Like, you should have other players that we rely on further and are probably, you know, the better players within the forward line. And that's sort of where I think Manchester United fans as well, I think our forward players, and this is another reason why we're not scoring enough goals, I think they get overhyped. I really do. I think a lot of fans think they're better than what they are.
Overrated.
And I think that's why we're not scoring as many goals as what we think. That we should do.
What we think we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like I just said, it's been going on for 3 seasons at least.
Yeah.
Not just this season.
3-4 seasons.
You know, we're on 1 goal a game at the moment this season. We normally get 1.5 a game, and it probably will rise a bit. But at the minute, I'm a bit concerned whether we're going to even get the 1.5 that we've been getting each year.
Yeah, you need to pick up the pace. Yeah. I love it. But I completely agree with what Beth's saying. I think a couple of those players can definitely play for teams that will challenge. It's just they shouldn't be the main players in that team. That's literally it. I think Rashford's better than Martinelli.
No chance.
Yes.
Yeah,
100%. 100%. 100% Rashford is better than... Garnacho's... The conversation should be about Garnacho and Martinelli, in my opinion. In fact,
Garnacho's better than Martinelli.
Ahmad can even have a conversation with Martinelli. And Martinelli played for a team that was competing last season. 100% Rashford is better than Martinelli. 100%. Ask any Arsenal fan, they'd agree.
Fans on.
I can call one now. He is.
I've got a friend who's an Arsenal fan, and he actually says, like, you won't want to hear it, Ricky. He says when Rashford's at his best, he's like one of the best wingers in the Prem. Oh, up there with the best wingers in the Prem. When he's at his best, but he's just not at his best enough. That's kind of the issue you have with it. But as someone said, we're talking about like what Carragher was saying. It's true. Like what Carragher was saying is right. Like if you expect Man United to compete in, Rashford cannot be your best forward player. You can definitely be in there. You can definitely be playing, but you can't be your best forward player. It's like a lot of these players that are our starters. I definitely think they can be part of it, and I think some of them could be like, you know, squad players and definitely play for the team. But we need a bit more star quality up front, I think. We need more firepower up front. You need someone like a Cole Palmer. You need someone like a, you know, someone who is guaranteed to score you goals and he's very high quality. We don't have that, I don't think.
I genuinely don't think that the plan, Rashford coming through the academy, I feel like United never actually wanted Rashford to be the main player anyway. I don't think that was. 100%. I don't think they did, because you look at the players that were around him.
You don't give someone 350 grand a week. If you don't want to see him
That's recently though. That contract only came a couple of years ago. I think you look at the players that United have brought in around Rashford. Lukaku was supposed to be our main striker at one point. We had Ronaldo who came in at one point. We had Cavani who came in at one point. Martial was there. We had Depay, Sanchez, Ibrahimovic. Obviously Bruno's in the team. I don't think you wouldn't bring in all these big players if you thought Rashford was that big player. You would give Rashford the keys 5-6 years ago, if you thought Rashford was going to be that guy when he was 21, 22, you would the same way that Arsenal look at Saka now at 22 years old and they've given him the keys to the team, they would have done that with Rashford 5 years ago when he was 22, 21. I think the reason why we've always looked for a main striker or another winger or another goal scorer to be in the United team is because I don't think United have thought Rashford's going to be this main winger. But now that all of those guys have gone, he's just had to be that guy just by default because there's nobody else there. That
is an interesting take, actually. I think you definitely need, a prolific striker to go alongside him. Yeah. 100%. Whether we are going to have that in Hojlund or Zirkzee, I mean, let's watch this space. It's quite early in their careers as it is Manchester United players. Ten Hag has said, though, which is really interesting, we've literally just been talking about it, he said, we have to kill games. We are creating a lot of chances, but we do not finish enough. I'm worried when we don't create chances, but I know we have players who can finish. We have plenty of good finishers. He's obviously going to back his players. You've got nobody else. But I actually don't think we have plenty of good finishers. I think we need more of them.
I think Marcus has had the luckiest start in football than you could ever imagine possible, because he came into the team the night that we played, I don't know how to pronounce it,
Midfield, yeah.
And he scored twice.
Yeah.
And then
Arsenal.
he kept his place for the next game and he scored twice against Arsenal.
Yeah.
So he scored twice in his first 2 games, and he's only scored twice in a game about 8 times since. You know what I mean? So to actually, for it to fall for him that he scored twice when he's clearly a player who finds it difficult scoring twice in a game, and he did it in both his first 2 games. If he would have just had a little bit of bad luck and not scored in them 2 games, which is common for him not to score. Do you understand what I mean?
I don't think it's lucky to score twice.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, it's lucky how it falls, Beth. It's lucky. If you look at a timeline of how often he scores twice there and he scores twice there, and then in all the rest of that time he only scores twice another 7 times or something.
But he does score though.
Yeah, but not twice very often. Very, very rarely.
Scoring a goal is a goal though.
Yeah, it does matter. You've just been speaking about hat-tricks and people getting hat-tricks. Sergio Aguero's got more hat-tricks than him than he's got braces.
Yeah, but if we're looking at overall goals, you know Rashford could end the season as, I think, top 10 or top 12 all-time Man United goal scorers.
Sorry, just to go off topic,
go on.
Ipswich Villa 2-2 with 10 minutes remaining, I think it is.
Oh, crazy. That's
Interesting.
Crazy, yeah.
But I mean...
But yeah, I was saying, like, Rashford does score, like, he has been there for a long time, but like I said, I think he's 12th or something, or he's around the top 10 all-time Man United top goal scorers, not Premier League, all-time, like, including Dennis Law and George Best and Bobby Charlton.
Obviously they're above him.
Yeah, they're above him, but he's still in the conversation for the top 10 of all-time Man United, all-time twice. So he does score goals. To say that he doesn't score goals statistically it doesn't add up. I would agree he doesn't score as much as we probably want him to, but he definitely does score some kind of goals.
You're gonna like this quote, Ricky. Ten Hag on Bruno Fernandes. Every season it's the same, and at the end of the season, Bruno has created the most chances in the Premier League and scored a lot of goals. I'm not worried.
Not true. It's not true, I'm not having it.
We've got some super chats in, and then we're going to do our players to watch. We've got Michelle Leon saying we clearly need Dan James and McTominay, problem solved.
Simple.
Gary R says 4-0 United. Patrick says, would Ricky love Kudus over Garnacho or Rashford?
I've not seen a hell of a lot of Kudus, but what I have seen, I would say yes.
Thomas McArdle says we forget Garnacho, he's still young. I think a lot of people do forget he's only 20 years old. Obviously, Rashford, he's 27, and every player's at a different development point. Therefore, the expectations are
should be different
for different players. But if you're starting for Manchester United, there is obviously going to be a lot of expectation on you, and there's going to be high standards, which there should be. And I think, a lot of the times United fans get called like toxic or that sort of line for just demanding more, and it's like we need to do better. And I think the whole team as professional athletes and players for Manchester United would be able to have a conversation and say, I know I've not been good enough, I know we need to do better. We play for Manchester United. I mean, Diallo said it. Diallo is probably one of the only players that can actually say he's played at a level that is good enough over the last couple of seasons. Yet he did an interview, I think it was with TNT Sports, and he says, we know we've been nowhere near good enough, and to play for this club, we have to be better. And, that's the standards that we demand. Of course, you want to support the players, but we have to demand everyone to be better. And there are reasons why we're not scoring, and you have to look at the players that you've got. You've got to look at the coach. And, that's the way football is. You've got to have these opinions. But player to watch, Ricky, who's your player to watch today?
Who's coming to the team? Do you know what? After I've criticised him a couple of times on Instagram just recently and people don't like it, I'm going to have a close watch of Martinez today.
Martinez, why? Do you not think he's had the start of the season that you would like to have hoped?
I just don't think he's what people seem to think he is. I think his passing lets him down a bit too much. His forward passing, positional sense as well.
Mordzs?
Mine was Rashford, because I genuinely didn't know who was going to start between Ahmad or Garnacho, so I just kind of thought it could, well, clearly seen today, like Ahmad's not starting. It would have been Ahmad, but he's clearly not starting today. Garnacho starting. So yeah, I just feel like he needs to pick up a bit more pace. The goals against Barnsley is good for his confidence, I guess, but he needs to start doing it in big games, because eventually it's going to get to the point where, you know what, even Ten Hag's seeming to rotate him now. He's going to end up getting more. The rotation is going to happen more and more and more if he doesn't start picking up his form. So, yeah, I'm like Ricky said, I'm watching him closely today. Hopefully, he has a good game.
Sorry, Rashford's 26. He's 27 next month. Got that wrong,
okay.
But nearly 27 anyway.
Right, yeah.
You know, you're a senior player at that age, aren't you?
Yeah. Can I just come back on the manager's comments about Bruno?
Okay, go on.
It's it sounds like you're talking to some kid on Twitter, some 14-year-old kid. You know, he's going to end up getting goals and making more chances than anyone else. It's like the fans of Bruno. It's like they want Bruno to do well rather than the team to do well. The team needs to score more goals. We've got 57 last year, 57 the year before, 58 the year before that. And lots of people are criticising Bruno at the minute, and the manager's defending him by saying he will still get some goals and he will create more chances. It's almost like he wants that player to do well. He's not thinking about the team. If I was the manager, I'd be saying I'm not worried about what he does. Obviously, I would want my team to score more goals, but I'd be saying, I'm not concerned. So long as our team plays well, so long as we win some games, so long as we get enough points and score enough goals, I don't care how many that person gets. He's talking like a fan. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
My player to watch was Ugarte.
Good shout.
Reason being is obviously I thought he got too much stick.
Yeah,
from his first game, first start in the Europa League. Obviously, his second start against Barnsley, you can't really tell with these players. You know, he's no disrespect, it's a League One opposition. So, first proper start at Old Trafford against 20. I think he got a lot of stick. Did I think it was an incredible game by him? No. Would I expect him to do better? Yes, but I don't think he was as poor as everyone was making out. And I do believe he will be a good signing. And I think we've got to have patience. He's 23. Just come into the team, and you're not getting thrown into any old midfield here. You're getting thrown into Man United midfield that doesn't have the best structure. He's finding his feet. I'm really hoping to see a Manu and Ugarte partnership develop. It's the first time they've started together, so I'm excited to see that. So Ugarte is my player to watch, and I really hope he has a good game today because I think he'll be very, very important. I mean, getting into the last 10 minutes of the show, both Ten Hag and Postecoglou haven't had the start of the season as they would have wanted. For both of these managers, really, you'd say it's a must-win game, but probably more so for Ten Hag being at home at Old Trafford. I mean, the stakes are very, very, very high today. Mordzs, which way do you see it going?
Oh, well, obviously United. I'm never going to say
Obviously.
I'm never going to say I see Spurs winning this game. That's in like I said before, I think it's very even though. I don't think it's United are going to run over them 3-4. No. If that happens, cool. I'm happy. We're all happy. We have a nice fan for him. Well done. But yeah, I do think it'll be a fairly even game in terms of like just battling. And I think even in terms of both managers, they both had similar starts to the season, but the pressure weighs way more on Ten Hag. And Postecoglou is genuinely one of the best things to happen to Spurs since Harry Kane. I think he's given Spurs some kind of like identity. He's given them a personality which they didn't have before. They were just this bland club that nobody really cared. Let's be honest, nobody really cared about Spurs. He's given them a reason, a bit more motivation. Even though they've not won anything, he's given them a bit more. He's given them like a lifeline. So I think Spurs, they're not looking at Ange thinking if he doesn't get top 4, he's in trouble. No, they're very, very happy with what Ange has done so far, and especially the way he's making them play football and the plays that he's brought in. he's good. Even if he does lose this game, he's good. Ten Hag, on the other hand, every game is must win. You have to win. And even if you do win or you get a draw, the way how you do it is another conversation. So he's got a lot more pressure on his back.
Ricky?
Score.
I mean, just in general between the two managers, I really, really like Ange Postecoglou. I think the way he speaks is brilliant. I like the way he's got his style of play and he sticks to it, and he's got his principles that he sticks to. I like him a lot, and I agree with you, Mordzs. I think Spurs aren't going sacking Ange if you don't get top 4 this year. I think it is a process, and he's kind of on that process with them. I do think the standards for him and Ten Hag are held at different points, and Ten Hag is obviously the Man United manager. It's a bigger club. You are going to get more criticism. But Ange and Ten Hag, they've both got very different styles, but both at this point in the season should be further ahead. Ricky, how do you kind of weigh up both the managers?
Yeah, I like Postecoglou, however you pronounce it. I really do. I like listening to him. I think he, like you say, he plays on the front foot. Such a high line that they play. I'm not a big fan of that, but like you say, he sticks to his guns. I like him in a big way, and one thing I couldn't believe was that he came out and said a week or so back that I always win something in my second season, and it's his second season. I was gobsmacked when he said
himself
that.
up, didn't he?
I thought, what are you setting yourself up for like that? And I like him. That obviously, like the only trophies we've got any chance of winning whatsoever are the League Cup, the FA Cup, and the Europa League, and they're in all 3 of those competitions. So any of those that we don't win, I want him to win.
I mean, the only thing I would say if I was a Spurs fan that would frustrate me is I do think the style of football is brilliant to watch, but they don't get the results. They don't get the results.
Risky football.
Like they don't get wins over the line, and that would frustrate me. And as a United fan, I know how that feels.
Did they finish above us in the league last season?
Yeah.
Must have done, surely.
Yeah, everyone did.
Yeah, but like for example, that Leicester game to start the season, you know, like they should have won that game. There's so many other games that I could speak about. Do you remember with that Brighton game when they got thrashed and Ange just didn't change the way he wanted to play?
Yeah, the Chelsea game where Nicholas Jackson got a hat-trick. Yeah.
But I do really like Ange. I think he's got a really interesting way of playing, and I think today will be a good game. I think it'll be an entertaining game, and he said that himself in his pre-match presser. Yeah. He's just a very likeable character, isn't he? And
as well, yeah, I like the fact that I don't think he's a Spurs fan. Like I remember last season where Spurs were playing City late on in the season, and it was like almost like a title decider. Like if Spurs won, Arsenal could have went and won the league. If City won, City would have went to come win the league. And Ange said, I don't care. Like I don't care who wins the league. I'm trying to win this game. And a lot of Arsenal fans, a lot of Spurs fans probably would have said, I wouldn't want you to win this game. I wouldn't mind not losing this game to Arsenal not win the league. And he said, I don't care what anyone says. If you think that, then you're not a real Spurs fan or something like that. He's trying to wean out the losers mentality within that Spurs. Yeah.
They give City a right game as well. Didn't City get a dead late winner in that game?
City won the game, yeah.
I think it was a dead late winner.
But he didn't try and he wasn't. They didn't win it because he let them win it. That's what it was.
Skinner Golf says we need to replace Shaw with Davis. He plays left back for Ipswich, I think. And Ipswich, by the way. 2-2. It's in the 90 plus 4th minute. Apparently Villa are only just hanging on.
Right. Villa, wow.
Gargate, a member for 7 months, says, honestly think Zirkzee should play all 90 minutes with his style of play. Maybe could bring on Hojlund after with Rashford out. Interesting. I really like Zirkzee as well, Gargate. I really do. Co says, Saka, Salah, Diaz, Foden, Silva, rival wingers versus ours. The ball sticks with them. They keep the ball in tight spaces. Only Ahmad can do that. Would Rashford / Garnacho start over any of those players?
Nope.
Saka is absolutely unbelievable to watch. The number of times I see balls get hit to him with the defender right up against him, and he manages to get it down and hold the defender off, and he either gets fouled or he just gets away from him and passes it. I think he's an unbelievable player, Saka. And the only player we've got anywhere near that quality as a winger is Ahmad. The others are too weak.
Yeah. I agree.
Do you know also, I think what goes under the radar with Saka, how good defensively he is.
Yeah.
The way he gets back in his team shape and he's
a fantastic player.
He's a really good team player for them, 100%. So Villa have just drawn to Ipswich. They're on 13 points.
That's a blow.
Let me see. So hang on a second, right? If we beat Spurs and and beat Villa next week, we're on the same points as Villa. Get in there.
Yes, Aston Villa.
If. I think that makes next week even more difficult for us because Villa, obviously, coming off the back of a draw at home at Villa Park, they're going to want to pull it back. But anyway, United, still opportunities there. It is early on in the season, but we've got to right our wrongs. We have to right our wrongs. Yeah. And it starts with winning this game.
Who do they have? Actually, I don't think you know. Who do they have midweek? Do they have a Champions League game this week?
Let me have a look. They have Bayern.
Yeah.
On Wednesday.
Yeah, it's going to be difficult for them next week.
That's at Villa Park, to be fair, so you don't have to go away, but still, it's a difficult game.
Yeah.
Right, as I'm looking at
We're at Porto on Thursday, aren't we? So ours is a day later.
Oh, yeah. We've got a big week, haven't we, in store? We've got a big week in store. Yeah. But anyway, it's about Spurs today, Old Trafford. You've got to win that game first. Don't look too far ahead. You've got to win your next game. And the next game kicks off in 31 minutes' time. So, score predictions, the United stand score predictions are up on the screen there. Ricky, I'll start with you. You've gone with a 2-1 loss.
What?
Are we supposed to be thinking with our heads or with our hearts? And I've got to be honest. Obviously, you always ask us in the morning, and we don't know what the lineups are going to be.
Yeah, true.
And now that I've seen the Spurs lineup, I'm not as convinced that it's going to go that way. If I could change it now, I'd go for a 2-2 draw. It's
a very attacking lineup. Well, that's interesting, Ricky, because I've gone with a 2-2 draw.
There's a lot of draws in this.
Yeah, I went with a 2-2 draw. I think it was a 2-2 draw last year, and I fancy a 2-2 draw again. I do think there'll be goals in the game. I hope we win. Do not get me wrong. I would do anything for a win, but what I think will happen is a draw. What do you think, Mords?
Yeah, I think I put 2-1. Pretty sure I put 2-1. I just don't think...
You went 2-1 win.
I think both teams are going to fight for a win. I don't think anyone's going to settle. I definitely don't think Spurs are going to settle anyway, so... It would have been a 2-1 United or 2-1 Spurs, I guess. And I'm going to go for United, obviously. So.
Goldbridge went with a 1-1 draw. A lot of draws in there. Sam's gone with a 2-2 draw. God, Greg's gone with a 2-0 loss. What are you doing, Greg?
Has he gone with 2-0? Greg.
I mean, come on. Kev's obviously gone with a 2-0 win. Loves it, Kev. I think he's combined 11 United. Spurs was like basically all United. Love it. Love it. Absolutely love it. Yeah. Oh, God, people in the chat are making me laugh. I wouldn't do completely anything for a win, but there was a lot of things I would do, not completely everything. Anyway, ask me in a few weeks' time when it's a little bit more, you're more desperate. It's the start of the season now and it's still just. But we can fall behind, so we've got to win this game. But look, Goldbridge is going live now. We've got to get to Old Trafford. Hit a like on the video, please. Ricky, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mords, thank you as well. We'll be back for the fans forum after this game. Go and infiltrate the chat. Go and infiltrate Mark's chat with... What should we go with?
What did he just say?
We can't do an emoji, but what should we infiltrate Mark's chat with?
Bruno out.
No, we're not infiltrating with that. We'll infiltrate the chat with... What should we do?
Someone in the chat was supposed to say interesting.
Top 4 on. Villa's lost. Top 4 on for Manchester United. Champions League football's back. Go infiltrate the chat with that. Look, everyone, come on United. Let's get the win today, and we will be back very shortly.